Hey everyone, it's Ray Hewert from the Teach Better team, and we are live for our bi-weekly family check-in, which now, let's be honest, we stream it everywhere. This used to be exclusive to our private Facebook group. Now we just like to go live every other Sunday as an opportunity for us to check in, take questions, really set the tone for the week. I know you've probably seen a lot of me and a lot of the team now that we're going live every single day for the Daily Drop-In series that's going on all of last week up until December 18th. But tonight is something different for our bi-weekly family check-in. So feel free to post your comments, get your questions ready, throw them in the chat, and we will kick this off right. Hey family, good to see you. We are live for our bi-weekly family check-in, which used to be something that was only in our private Facebook group as an opportunity for us to get together and really kind of like set the tone for the week. We now stream these all over. We're all over on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And it's honestly just an opportunity for us to come live and ask questions, have really interesting conversations, and talk about whatever's on your mind. So if you don't mind, please use the chat to not only say hello, just like Kate just did. I say, hey, Kate, good to see you, but also share your questions, any topics you want us to discuss, anything you want to hear about. I know you're getting a lot of Teach Better love now that the Daily Drop-In is happening every single morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, but we also have some other things that we can discuss, and I feel like the Daily Drop-In is an opportunity to ensure that we have a safe space to ask questions as things change quickly around the world, but also like what's an extra time to come live and talk shop. So great to see everybody here. I see Carrie, it's good to see you. Jillian's popping in from Canada. So glad that you guys are a part of today. I have no agenda. We can talk shop. You can ask questions about education. We can talk about Teach Better team things. I could share, I could talk about dogs. Let's be honest. I'm good to chat about anything that would be helpful for everybody in our network. The Teach Better team really strives to just be a safe space to learn and grow, to be a little bit better today than we were yesterday and a little bit better tomorrow than we were today. And so as we continue to kind of like conclude our Sunday, since right now it's 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, I'm kind of in this mindset of like, what do you need to hear? What topics are you still wrestling with as you get into your Monday tomorrow? What things are you anxious about? What things are you excited about? And anything is fair game. So feel free to throw all of that in here. I can't promise that I'll have an answer, but hopefully have some food for thought and be able to direct you to people that can continue to challenge your thinking and be a part of that dialogue. So really quick, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Ray Hewert. I am a full-time 6th grade math teacher in Illinois, as well as the director of training and development for the Teach Better team. I have a lot of different roles I get to play, but essentially in the classroom, I get to be like the mean old math teacher, which I'd love to tell you about this week. We have a lot going on this week for my students. If that's something that would interest you, throw that in the chat. Let me know. Otherwise, I won't bore you. But I also get to work with the Teach Better team, which is just a crew of educators that are just trying to help, put their part into education to challenge and inspire progressive-minded educators. So if you've not been to teachbetter.com, there are oodles there. I actually just looked at our blog, and we publish a blog every single day. There's so much content there. But we always have guest bloggers. Our podcast network is thriving. If you're a podcaster, holy moly, do I have some recommendations for you? And then I know a lot of you might know this, but we have a brand new course launching in the Academy this week. So there just always seems to be a way for us to like challenge our thinking or affirm our thinking. And that's honestly like why we're here. We just want to be accessible, available, authentic, and a little bit of fun. So as we get started, I do want to say like, Livia's jumping in here. Livia, it's so good to see you. I actually was just thinking about you. I owe you a message, Livia, because I talked about you a lot last week because I find you to be one of the most authentic and like just wonderful people that just always shows your gratitude and appreciation. And so I'm sure you caught it, but all last week, my motto was like, be more like Livia. It was Thanksgiving here in the US. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to channel my Livia nature. And then I was just in a meeting earlier today, Livia, where I'm like, okay, this is a medium to bring Livia in. So I hope you're doing well, Livia. I know we haven't chatted, but it's so good to see you. Danielle's jumping in here. Danielle, I'm so thrilled that you're commenting and saying hi. You have some questions about planning for finals. I'd love to talk about that. I actually don't know much about planning for finals. So I'd love for you to pose a direct question, if you don't mind, in the chat as you're thinking about planning for finals, and maybe share with us some specifics, because while I may not know the answer, I'm confident that this crew that's live with us right now or watching after the fact might have some ideas for you. I know a lot of schools have canceled finals or postponed them. So I'd be super interested in learning about what your situation is with finals, and then also what you're struggling with in terms of planning in 2020 for finals. That's a great, great, great point. I'm so glad you posted that. So I'm eager to hear your next question. Looks like we have Nikki here. Nikki, it's so good to see you. I just saw a great photo that you posted on Facebook, so it's so good to see you here as well. Neil Gupta, I just Voxed you. Did you see my Voxer message? Voxer is like the way that I stay connected to Neil, and I checked it today, and oh my God, there was this like message that you sent me days and days and days ago, and Neil, I just responded. I can't wait to hear from you. Neil says, how to keep students motivated learning into the winter holiday. That is a very important topic we need to discuss. I think motivation is huge. If you are listening right now and have some ideas on how you're keeping students motivated, please feel free to share that. Neil, for me, I find motivation to be an ebb and flow, a balance, a give and take between educator and students. And I really think the secret sauce is finding the right kind of blending of two key ideas. One is relevancy of the content to students. I think that we are always more motivated when we understand the purpose, the why, the intention we're doing something, whether that be a project or a content element or anything in between. I think the more we can put the purpose of our content at the forefront of our students' experience learning, the more motivated they're going to be simply out of interest, out of purpose for their work. And I also think it has a really interesting balance. I find motivation to be fascinating when we link it to ownership. So I think that the more we can work with our students to actually take ownership of what they're learning, then motivation becomes intrinsic. So motivation is always a good concept. I'd love to hear all of you listening. We have so many people that are live with us right now, or even after the fact, guys. Like if you're listening after, no shame that you missed us live. But I think motivation through December is always, and I mean always, a hot topic, because this is really where we see that lull, and if people are like, oh, I'm just trying to get to winter break. Like, we need to be better than just trying to get a winter break. So as you're thinking about motivation, I'd love for you to share your strategies in the chat, because maybe you're doing something that can help somebody else, some other educator across the world. I actually just had a Zoom call this afternoon at about 2:00 with a gentleman named Dan, who's a principal in the UK. And we talked a lot about motivation and, trying to make sure that teachers are really finding a space to still be creative and effective in their work. And I love seeing that conversation is expanded not only within the US, but around the world, as we continue to find the right ways to motivate students and keep people interested, because we are better than just being educators that are trying to make it to the next break, right? Like, our jobs are important. You have incredible, incredible value. I love that this is a topic that you're bringing up, and always something worth discussing. Oh no, Dave Schmidt's here. He says, hey there, queen of the crew. I will take that. I will totally take queen of Sunday biweekly family check-in. Sign me up. Oh my gosh, there's so many comments already. I'm so sorry. Yes, Neil's correcting his spelling. No worries, Neil. I know what you meant. That was good. Winter holidays is definitely exciting. I did really like that today I took the dogs on a walk, and people have their lights up for Christmas. I won't lie. So I don't celebrate Christmas, but those that do, I feel like it's a gift to everybody else that you put your lights up. Like, I know this is absurd for me to be saying on like a relatively serious PD. It's not. We're doing our biweekly family check-in. This is when we hang out just like family, answer questions, and relax. And I just want you guys to know that I love Christmas lights, and I hope everybody puts them up because it's my favorite thing. And so when we're talking about like getting to the winter holiday, I want us not to necessarily be like trying to get to the winter holiday for the sake of students, but can I tell you how excited I am that the winter holiday is here? Whew, so fun. So whether it be Christmas or a different holiday that you're celebrating over the past month, maybe it's already happened, maybe it's coming soon. Anytime that we can kind of like fill our communities with love and celebration is totally up my alley. So fun. Brittany, so fun to see you here. Good morning, good morning. Good afternoon. Good to see you. This is the problem with going live for the daily drop-in is I get so used to saying good morning that then I'm live here in the evening on a Sunday and I'm like, what day is it? What time is it? Is the sun out? This is the deal, guys. So good to see you. Livia. You're wonderful, Livia. I'd love to hear how you're doing and hear about your family. We need to catch up soon. Kate is throwing a question in here. I love this, Kate. I cannot wait to start taking questions. Thank you to all of you that are commenting already. Kate says, do you have any advice for teachers that are experiencing instructional changes, going from in-person to remote and then vice versa? So many of us are jumping from one to the other. What strategies have worked well for you? Kate, this is a great question. And similar to student motivation, like it's something that's extremely relevant right now. And I find that a lot of the ease that I have seen educators have between shifting from one to the other is by kind of something that we've been discussing ever since COVID kind of kicked off, especially in the US in March, is this concept of having routines set in place that can ebb and flow. Like to always assume you are going to be moving from one to the other. Therefore, you should have already been preparing and planning for it. And the days it doesn't happen, then it's like, okay, my lesson was planned. And the days it does happen, you can say, yes, I'm ready. And so when you're talking about strategies or things, it really, and I feel like a broken record, I've been saying this for a year, it really comes down to routines. What routines do you have in place that your students are going to feel comfortable and confident ebbing and flowing from one to the other? Now, I know a lot of you know that I use the grid method, but I don't actually believe that the grid method is necessarily a routine you have to have in place to feel comfortable going from one to the other. I think it helped a lot of people, and I know I've heard incredible feedback, but I don't think it's like a one-trick pony where if you're not using this skill, if you're not using this tech tool, if you're not using this framework, you're going to struggle. I really think it's about planning for the worst case scenario and then working your way backwards. So for at least the educational leaders that we were working with in August, we always talk to people about plan on being remote. That way, if you're hybrid or if you're fully in person, everything becomes a little bit easier. You can kind of adapt as you go. If you are going to be a teacher who's planning a certain situation if you're in person and a different situation if you're remote, then every time you shift, you're going to have to go back and forth and like revamp and redo everything. Whereas if you set intentional routines as you go, how are you going to take attendance? How are you going to start class? How are students going to get the information? How do students learn? How are you building and conferencing? How do you give students feedback? All these things, if you're already intending for those to be in all three settings, then it doesn't really matter where your students physically are when they're learning because you've already planned for the best and worst case scenario and then everything in the middle. So let me give you some examples. For me, our classroom always starts all together. So whether we are physically in the room together, half in the room together, or fully remote, we always start class together. So the way that we've been doing that is we use like an online conferencing system. We use Google Meets. I know there's like Zoom and WebEx and everything else, but we personally am at the district I work in. We're using Google Meets and we all start together. So whether you're a student physically in front of me or not, you're logging onto this Google Meet and we are like setting the tone for the day. So that is a universal norm no matter where we are and throughout our day. From that point, I also take attendance, like check my teacher box, right? Then we get into our learning for the day. So at the very, very tail end of us setting the tone for our day, which to be honest with COVID and because of internet and technology, it's been more like 10 to 15 minutes versus the 6 to 8 that I used to recommend when we were like pre-COVID. So it's like 10 to 15 minutes all together, usually some dialogue back and forth. Maybe I go over a problem. I kind of call this teacher time. I can do whatever I want. At the tail end, we're going over our expectations for ourselves and each other for the day. So students are checking Seesaw, which I'll get to in a second. Students are looking at a checklist that I'm providing for them. They're kind of going through like mentally thinking still while we're all together, what am I trying to accomplish when I leave this call? What's the first thing I'm going to do? And what's the next thing after that? And then we talk about like the best way to stay organized with that. So some students keep a digital list. Some students keep a digital checklist. Some students write their checklist down every day. We kind of like have learned how to be learners in this capacity. Then the Google Meet stays open the entire class hour, and students that don't need immediate teacher support leave the Google Meet. When they leave the Google Meet, they have that checklist they're following, and that checklist is like the tasks I need them to work on throughout the day. So whether using a mastery-based framework like the grid method or not, they have like 5 things. It's not 5, it's usually 4, but regardless, they have 5 things that they need to do. And the first thing on that checklist is to come on the Google Meet and start our day together. So I always tell them that like, when we're done with the Google Meet and you can leave, you've already done the first thing. Well, it's easier always to go to number 2. And that's what I'm finding with my students. It's always easier to go to the next thing on the checklist than to start the checklist. So if the first thing on the checklist, they've already accomplished, then we just go simply to number 2. And for whatever reason, I've gotten really good feedback that students are like, I always feel like I'm moving. Like I always feel like I know where I'm headed, which is beautiful. Anyway, as they go throughout that checklist, if at any point throughout the day, either because it's prompted through an activity or because they have a question and it's a personal something they need, that Google Meet's open for all students to join at any point in time. So I do conferencing on there. I answer questions. I'm live and accessible at every moment for them. And so it's kind of this organic ebb and flow where students join the Google Meet, get what they need, and leave. And then at the very, very end, the last 5 minutes, all of our students have set like some sort of timers on our phone or on the computer or wherever, on the oven, on the microwave, and it goes off and they set their goal setting and reflection for the day. And we use this really intentionally. So students reflect on 4 questions. They say like, how did today go? They give us a kind of a narrative, like word vomit. What did you do today? And when that's submitted, it's not only something that students look at the following day to know exactly what they should be picking up on to help with our transition, but it's also shared with their family. So the reason I really like this system, the reason I'm bringing this up, is because that system exists whether they are physically in my classroom, hybrid in my classroom, or not, or in remote. And I really love that no matter what, we always start in a Google call together. We always have our checklist. We always have a space where you can go get teacher support in the moment you need it. And we always reflect on our day. And that does not change. The only benefit of us being in the classroom is that I get to kind of control our students' learning environment. I get to ensure they have strong Wi-Fi and a safe environment to learn in, which is wonderful. So as we transition, not much is affected in my classroom because we transition so well. Now, I don't know if you guys saw the daily drop-in that Caitlin Giordano and I did. I think it was Wednesday of last week. She talked a lot about how she doesn't use any of those strategies and she has a station-based system. And again, her routines are so secure and the students are so aware of them that regardless of where the student is and what's going on in school, it works consistently at any point in time. And so, Caitlin, I'm sorry, going back to your question, when you're saying what strategies have worked well for you, instructional strategies, moving from remote to in-person, everything in between, is truly just starting with your routines. Starting with your routines and saying, what do I need for my students to have so that procedures are never going to be the hang up and we can focus on content. I am going to move to the next comment, but I just want to give this mindset a little bit for those of you that use the grid method. We always instruct, always, whether you're learning with us in person and partner with the Teach Better team and brought us into your school district or just took a webinar, we always talk about doing an introduction grid. And that's where students truly do a grid to learn what a grid is before they get into their first content grid. And some people like skip that, and I always discourage it. You have to learn procedures before you learn content. It's really challenging to learn new procedures and new content at once. It's really, really, really an uphill battle. So if you can set up procedures that students can feel confident with, then content can always be something that you're incorporating. And that is incredibly beneficial as we find this ebb and flow. Also, to lend some perspective, in my classroom, we started remote for the first 9 weeks. We were hybrid for 3 to 4 weeks. And then we just switched back to remote last Thursday. So not Thanksgiving, but the week before. And then so we were remote Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. Then we had Thanksgiving. And now we're remote next week. And just FYI, we don't know what's after that week. So I'm very much, Kate, in the same spot you are, where I'm like, it seems like every 2 weeks something's switching. And so we just have to be ready. And if we're not ready, then shame on us, because we know that this is how it's going to be for a while. So routines. All right. Geez, Kate, already getting me on my soapbox, really 19 minutes in. If you are popping in and this is a new experience for you, welcome to our biweekly family check-in. We're just taking questions and hanging out. Please use the comments as a space to not only share with me what topics you'd love us to discuss, but also to communicate with each other. The Teach Better team is all about connecting great educators with other great educators and having strong and important conversations. So make that happen. Mark, it's so good to see you. I loved seeing your posts even this week on Facebook. I feel like you were popping up all over on my newsfeed, so I love that stuff. Schmidto's popping in. Schmidto says, I would love to hear what you are focused on over the next 3 weeks. Focused on, like, personally in school with the Teach Better team? No, I'm just kidding. I assume you're asking in school. So in school, students are doing a bunch of fun stuff, and I'm super excited about it because one of my classes is in the middle of a unit where students are exploring baking and partnering with a bakery shop in town to explore fractions. So it's a really, really fun unit, and a lot of beautiful things that we've been able to incorporate since students are home. That's been really fun. Silly things like we've been watching a ton of videos and making our own videos baking to, the first few minutes that we're together setting the tone for the day, everyone has to stand up and like go hunt for a spoon because we need spoon for our mini lesson, and we really don't, but it's like we're always getting our baking supplies. I had a challenge the other day for everybody to go find like a pan, and I was joking. I'm like, okay, this is going to be like our thunder for our mini lesson. So when you hear something that makes sense or you're excited about or we're clapping, like bang on your pan, because it was so fun. I love that we're able to do a unit to not only partner with somebody in the community, a small business, but then also like it's cool to have students that have access to a kitchen, because all of my families have access to like forks. It's just kind of fun. And then we kind of discuss why some people don't have certain things. Like I told them it was so hard for me to find a pan because I don't cook a lot. And so I'm like, it was just very fun. I got off track. Anyway, that's continuing. I also have students that just finished a unit on expressions and they're moving into a new one. And this one is all about planning a party. So we are using writing expressions and understanding the beginning elements of algebra, pre-algebra, to transition into party planning. So tomorrow's our last conference day. Tuesday, students are going to be identifying the party that they will be planning, because they each have to individually choose a family member. They're planning a birthday party, maybe something for the winter holidays. They all have to identify something they're orchestrating. And then every single move they make from there throughout the math unit over the next few weeks is related to their party planning. So writing expressions directly related to the types of cups you want to buy and things like that. So I'm going to tell them they don't actually have to do the party, but it needs to be planned as if they could just have this list and execute the party. So there'll be some fun opportunities for them to bring their parents in and have some voice and choice in the experience. So very excited to be party planning over the next few days. That will be awesome. Danielle's jumping in with her question. As many of you know, earlier, she jumped in wanting to know more about finals. So this is a great question that I hope you guys respond to. Even if I don't know the answer, again, the whole point of the biweekly family check-in is to connect you with somebody who hopefully can help and lend some perspective. So Danielle says, finals for high school will be 1 hour. How do you apply the grid method to a final? Is the final based on levels? Is it accumulative and focus on the most recent learning? Danielle, I think a lot of that has to do with your own philosophy on education. And it also has to do with what your school district might require, because it's really a balance between your educational philosophy and like the requirements of your job. For me, I've always put final assessments into my grid, meaning that at the end of a certain standard, at the end of a certain level, when you've met that standard expectation, there's some sort of like assessment to prove that you understood the concept. It's kind of like the final thing. But I also know educators that use grid throughout the semester and then stop the grid before finals and have like a a official final that they do. During COVID, especially depending on your mentality, Danielle, a lot of what I believe to be true is that the best way for us to know what our students know is to talk to them. So I don't know if you have a specific final you have to require. I don't know what your mindset is on that, but I would encourage you that if possible, it would be ideal to have your students not only complete something maybe to prove their understanding to you, but also participate in some sort of conversation where you can reaffirm that understanding. That is actually what I'm doing with one of my classes tomorrow, not in a final situation, but in like a summative test, is that students are going to hop on a Google Meets call and I'm facilitating a discussion. So the way that I'm doing that, actually, I don't know if this is interesting to you, but as a math teacher, we're working on writing expressions. So I'm actually giving them, they take a test like in Google Forms, but I don't use that except for them to evaluate how they're feeling on the information. And then they actually get their final score in the conference with me. And in the conference, what I'm doing is I'm writing an extremely complex expression on my screen, on my iPad. And I'm telling them, I'm like, this is 3 times harder than what you just did. What the standard even needs. And I'm asking them to work in small groups to evaluate how you would write the expression for this extremely complex expression and use their thinking to explain their work. So I did this for a group, what was that, Tuesday and Monday, but Tuesday primarily is in my mind. And I had a group of like 5 at one point, 5 or 6, and they had this great strategy. So their mindset was, you have one person who just tries their best to write the expression, like everything that they possibly could think of, like they lay it all on the line. And then everyone else like changes, critiques, like changes wording, flips orders, and they're explaining their thinking all the way through. I think that we should use some instead of plus, because some insinuates that you have parentheses and plus insinuates there's no parentheses and you're just using order of operations. And they're going through their thinking. And in the end, when I'm confident that I know that a student fully understands a concept, I kick them out of the conference. So there's been many a times where I'm like, oh, Danielle, you're doing great. You can go. The rest of the group stay here. Let's keep building on, or let's do another problem, or let's continue to debate this one. But it's a beautiful way to get student information because they're really sharing their thinking, but they can work off of each other's work. And it gives me so much stinking data on what these students actually know, because the standard asks them to just know like the product of 3 and y, you would write as like 3y, right? But I'm giving them like excessively complex situations that they truly have to use that thinking through. So I guess I'm geeking out here. It's really fun. But to truly answer your question, I think you need to find, identify your philosophy first, identify what restrictions you have based on your district, and move from there. I'm not sure if that helps, but thanks for getting me on a soapbox again. Nikki says, I surveyed my students before Thanksgiving, asking what motivates them and how I can help them get motivated. That's a genius idea. I think the best thing we can do anytime we are considering something, questioning something, is involving more voices, and our students' voices are so imperative that we start to do. That's probably the biggest thing that I'm missing, not being in the classroom with students every day, is that I more organically like question and ask their opinion, versus when we're virtual, it becomes a little bit more, it's not as casual. But I love, Nikki, that you went that approach. That is so wonderful. Jamie says, hey, Ray, Neil, motivation is different for everyone. Relationships is key. Holy moly, you're right. That's true. As you get to know your students, you'll be able to infuse things that can help connect them to their interests, goals, and promote a growth mindset. So wonderful. Dan is popping in. Dan, this is who I talked to earlier. Dan, I was just talking to you. I'm so glad you love Christmas lights. I just love them. Like so I was on a walk, saw all these Christmas lights, and I just let my dogs out before I came live here with all of you for our biweekly family check-in. And my neighbors just put Christmas lights up in their backyard. And I'm like, oh, this is even better. I just get them right there. It's so fun. I love that tradition. It's so beautiful. Hey, Kalissa, good to see you. Kalissa is actually joining us for a daily drop-in a few weeks. So Kalissa, I can't wait for you to share your voice there. Livia says, what motivates my students is our tip. Focus on today's best. Oh, Livia, mic drop, bringing in today's best. You know, that's my MO. I love it. She says, and I talk about marathons a lot, finishing strong, pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone to keep us going, even though we're tired. It's an I can mindset. Livia, love it. Today's best is essential. For those of you who may not be familiar with today's best, I wrote about it in Teachers Deserve It, but it's one of the things that, when you just do something with students and you didn't know that if you shared it with other educators, it would be helpful. Today's best is one of them. I've been doing it in my classroom forever, and I'm so thrilled that in some small way it's resonated with other educators. But it's the mindset of the fact that we can't expect 100% from people. We can't expect 100% for our students all the time. We can't expect 100% from our colleagues all the time. We can't expect 100% from our administrators all the time. That's just a reality. We are human beings, but this mindset of expecting 100% puts a lot of pressure. And I think that there's this concept of we really aren't looking for 100%. We're looking for whatever their best is in that moment. If a student comes in and they just found out their family's going through a hard time, like getting a divorce or diagnosed with COVID, or they're going through things and there's things in their head, we're not actually looking for them to give their perfect 100%. We're looking for them to give whatever their best is in that moment. And their best might be 60% of their typical awesomeness. It might be 70%. But this idea of giving today's best is allowing people permission to name and acknowledge that they're going through hard times, but also celebrate the fact that they still can give incredible value, still learn, still be a part of a community, even though they're not perfect 100% of the time. So as you go through, I really would challenge you to kind of evaluate, what is today's best right now for you? And then if that changes in 5 minutes because somebody in your household smiles at you or brings you a cup of hot cocoa and your day just gets a little bit better, awesome. Then your today's best just elevated even more. But the more we can work together to challenge each other to give today's best, I think we can do incredible things together. For me personally, today's been a wonderful day. I've been able to do great things with the dogs. I got a lot done for work. I prepared for my week. I felt very accomplished. I had kind of a tough conversation with a friend that I'm really excited we're going to persevere through. And I think my best right now is at about a 90%. Feeling pretty good. I'm a little tired, a little anxious about the week coming. But I just want to give my best to whoever I'm with. And it doesn't mean that I'm perfect, but I just want to give as much as I can, as much as I have, to our community, to the people around me. So I appreciate all of you. And I hope that you continue to challenge yourself and your students to give their best as well. Hey, Michelle, so good to see you. So great that everybody's here. I love this. It's a great comment. Oh gosh, this is incredible information. I had no idea. Thank goodness it popped up in my scrolling. I just got here. Will I be able to rewatch this later? Absolutely. So our biweekly family check-ins used to be something that were only streamed in our private Facebook group, which you guys can join at teachbettergroup.com. It's a collection of over 5,000 educators that just talk shop about best practice. We're actually re-envisioning that group because we really wanted to be as intentional as possible. So this came from there, to be completely frank. And now we stream everywhere, and we stream on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and Twitch. And we do that purely to provide a space for us to all chat. But everything that the Teach Better team does, we're live right now we're live 6 days a week, but we're live with the intention of always trying to support you, whether you catch us live in that moment or afterwards and you get to rewatch it. So you can catch any of the content that the Teach Better team does, either on your favorite social media channel, like Facebook has it saved and Twitter will have it saved. Those are a little bit harder to navigate. Going to YouTube will be way easier because everything is housed there. Twitch is a great spot as well. So, or a lot of our content becomes a bonus episode on the Teach Better Talk podcast. So that makes it pretty easy. Chelsea's jump in says, hey, Ray, do you have celebrations or do you do anything special after students have mastered their summative assessment on the grid? Trying to find more ways to celebrate learning. Chelsea, a lot of what we do in terms of celebrations is really just celebrating each other. I don't have a specific system in place, but I know a ton of educators in the Teach Better family use badges or awards or certificates. I know that's a beautiful way to celebrate students. So for me, I know it sounds silly, so hear me out, but maybe I'm wrong. For me, the summative assessment is a checkpoint for me, but it's not an end point for students. And so I get a little like, it's not uncomfortable. I don't necessarily always feel like the summative is what I actually want to celebrate. Like, it's great that they made it to the minimum expectation in the grid. It's great that they mastered the grade level standard. It's great that they did something that's going to go in the grade book. Like, all that's true. But usually when a student gets to the summative assessment, it's a few days before our unit actually ends. So between the summative assessment and the end, they're moving on to enrichment. They're moving on to all these other things. And so what I have found, right or wrong, that really not acknowledging the summative assessment as like something that's worth celebrating, it has emphasized that like you're not done, the learning's continuing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I celebrate all of my checkpoints with students kind of all with the same enthusiasm. So whether a student is checking in with me on a formative assessment, a summative assessment, or enrichment, I want that celebration to be just as high, just as impactful, just as fabulous, because we're really just celebrating that they learned something, that they proved that they learned something, and that now they get to go learn something else, more than celebrating that they reached the end. And then also there's more because they have time. I think it sends a different message, because now enrichment feels like just furthering your learning versus like something extra I'm asking them to do, even though they did what I needed them to do. I don't know if that made sense, but I would love to hear about what you do for celebrations, because whether it's a celebration of a summative assessment, a formative assessment, an enrichment opportunity, like I think celebrations are the best part, and I'm always excited to celebrate students. So I'm a fan. Okay, Livia says, here's a quote from my student's reflection. I think that the quality of my work is good, and I always give today's best, even if it's not as good as yesterday's best. Livia, this is like, that quote needs to like live in, I need to put that somewhere, like write that on a Post-it or print this out. I think it's so amazing when we use strategies ourselves that we try and share with students, and then they use it back with us. And what I love about this quote is, I always give today's best, even if it's not as good as yesterday's best. Because that is the truth, people. It's just the truth. Like today, I got to stay in my pajamas most of the day. I got so much puppy time. I got so refueled. And I'm gonna give my best right now. And then tomorrow, I'm going to wake up really early. I'm going to do a daily drop-in. I get to teach all day. I have 2 meetings, and then I have 3 hours of podcast recording. I won't lie to you. I won't like be done working until about 9:30 Central tomorrow-ish, depending on how podcasting goes. So that means that I'm getting up and like starting my day with all of you live at 7:30 Central. I'm going literally throughout the day with kind of no breaks, which is Mondays are crazy for me. And then I'm ending at like 9:30. There is a humanistic mentality. Like it's true. My best at 7:30 probably won't be the same at 9:30, but that doesn't mean that that's bad. I'm like going to constantly just be like giving what I have. And I don't ever want anybody to find negativity in that. You are a wonderful and inspiring and impactful educator simply by giving your best. So if you spilled your coffee in the morning and it kind of like, threw off your day, that's fine. You're going to put in every support possible to try and make your day better, maybe by getting another coffee on the road or like I said earlier, like having someone smile at you really boosts you. But until that point, just accept that you're a little off, and you're going to give everything you have to the people that are with you. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be 100, but it's going to be like the best 80% humanly possible. I tell my students that all the time. Like when Wi-Fi doesn't work and they tried to log onto the Google Meet 6 times and finally it worked and now they're on and they're frustrated, I'm like, breathe deeply. We're going to put some supports in place so that you can be as successful as possible. And if you're not feeling 100%, that's fine. I will take you as you are. I just would love for you to give today's best. I just think that's important. So thank you, Olivia. This like made my whole day. I love this idea of, I think that the quality of my work is good, and I always give today's best, even if it's not as good as yesterday's best. That is true. We cannot expect perfection. We just want today's best. Super good. Love all these comments. So fun. Kalissa's jumping in. Ray, have you or anyone in here tried to show high quality student data in a way of teaching and learning to an administrator? Kalissa, I want to answer your question, but I'm not quite sure what you're asking. Have you or anyone in here tried to show high quality student data in this new way of teaching and learning to an administrator? Tell me more about the type of high quality student data you're alluding to, because we share data all the time with administrators. I mean, the Teach Better team has an admin mastermind that we host twice a week. Obviously, the work we do when we partner with school districts is like a ton working with administrators to support teachers. But I'd be super interested in learning more specifically what you're asking. So let me know. Chelsea's jumping in, says, love that mindset. Great way to show that learning never ends. It totally answers my question. Oh, good, about the celebrations. But Chelsea, to clarify, celebrations are great. Like, please don't ever stop celebrating students. I think my favorite part of my job when I transitioned into using Mastery Learning was I got to be the coach and the cheerleader I always wanted to be for my kids. So it's just deciding when that celebration comes, I think, is really the biggest like kind of challenge I gave to you. So hopefully that's helpful. For everyone in here, I've been live for 41 minutes. I do want to do like a last call for questions, thoughts, topics that you want us to discuss, clarifying questions you want to throw in here, anything I can do to help. For those of you that may not be aware, not only are we live tonight for our biweekly family check-in, which happens every single Sunday at 8 o'clock Eastern in the evening, but we will also be live every single morning at 8:30 Eastern a.m. for our daily drop-in series. Our daily drop-in series just started in March because we wanted to provide support. I've said this 100 times, but truly the world was changing so quick that we were like, how do you support something that you don't understand? And we decided the best way to support educators was to be accessible so that when things changed, when questions came about, you had somewhere to go that you knew was going to be solution-minded and focused on your well-being and your students' well-being and bringing in a multitude of perspectives. We have incredible guests that are going to be joining us this week. Unfortunately, it's Jeff and I tomorrow because we have some fun celebrations that we'll be sharing with our Teach Better family. But all week long, we have Dave Schmittou coming with us, Brian Zwemke. We have incredible Jessica, who I want you guys to meet from Move This World, focusing on SEL. And oh my God, so many suggestions. Guys, my student teacher, Samantha Monroe, she was my student teacher this entire semester during COVID. She was 100% remote, finalizing her student teaching. She's coming live with me for our daily drop-in. So that will be happening later this week as well. Stay up to date, hang out with us. Carrie's joining us. There's just so many people. So make sure you set your alarms for 5:30 Eastern. Obviously, you can rewatch them. They're all going to be saved and streamed all over the place. So feel free to check those out. And you can also check them after the fact as a bonus episode of Teach Better Talk podcast, which is always a fun spot to listen to the audio recordings of the content pushed out by the team. I'm just so stoked for this week. In addition to that, we have a course launching by the amazing Dave Schmittou, which I don't think we were supposed to announce, but we've been announcing like crazy. It's all about leading through empowerment. And I just think Dave Schmittou is kind of the coolest guy on the planet. And I really try not to embarrass myself around him because all I do when I'm around him is compliment him because I think he's so smart. He lends so many different perspectives. He's had so many roles in education, and his mindset is purely out of wanting to be helpful and serve those around him. And I was thrilled that he did this course. So that is Leading by Empowering. It's coming out on Tuesday. We'll be talking way more about it on Tuesday on lunch day. Additionally, you'll be seeing a lot coming out with Education Blueprint, which is an incredible nonprofit that we support as a free platform for teachers to share all their tools and resources with each other. I feel like I visit there like every day, if not like 5 times a week. So educationblueprint.org will be a part of the celebration in the next few weeks. And we just have a lot of fun stuff happening. Like I was looking through our calendar for December, and a lot of it we've not alluded to yet. I will do a little spoiler here. First of all, Black Friday sale. There's a Black Friday sale, 50% off courses, 50% off swag. using the code I am better. If you need that, DM me. Let me know. I'll get you that. But a little spoiler, and I know that I'm not allowed to share this, so only if you are live with us right now, and then don't tell anybody. There is a chance that the Teach Better team will be doing another 12-hour live event. So keep your eyes out for those details, because that might be coming soon. So that was an incredible thing we did this summer. That was super fun. So just saying. All right, I'm going to go. I've been live for 45 minutes. I'm done spoiling secrets. I care about you all. Happy, happy, happy Sunday. Thank you for joining us for our biweekly family check-in. And if you need anything, please feel free to reach out. We are always here to support you. We care about each and every one of you, and can't wait to see the amazing things we continue to do with education. So love you guys. See you later.